Sevgili Bay Holmes, Büyük Sarayın kuzeyindeki Kordana Manastırı'nın karşısında Turkuaz yolu Kurbanlık malikanesinde sizi bekliyorum. Hemen gelin. Müsait olmasanız bile gelin. Gereksiz sorunlarla uğraşmayın diye uygun kıyafetler gönderdim. Umarım üstünüze uyar. Eee... Herkes aynı şeyi giymiş. Benim maskem niye bu kadar çirkin peki?
Welcome, sir. I do hope you enjoy yourself.
Umarım.
Enjoy the evening, sir. There is still plenty of time before the grand finale.
All right.
Ne oluyor burada? Hayda, ne oluyor?
What if I write an article about these people here? Can you help me gather information about Cordona's... My goodness, Sherlock, they made a blood fountain.
No, John, it's definitely not blood, just wine. Gahors, at a guess.
Do you know what was had?
Ne oluyor? Ne oluyor? Okültist bir mimarmış. Hayatın eski bir ciltteki güçlü bir ritüeli gerçekleştirmeye adamış ama sıradan büyü halkaları zayıf kalıyormuş. Bu yüzden burayı inşa etmiş. Keskin bir göz mimari şekillerin belirli büyülü sembollere benzediğini, bazı duvarların boşluklu olduğunu fark edebilir. Bir anda kaybolmuş, kül lekeleri kalmış sadece.
That's what I like about this party. Bring me more dirt, Sherry. One more piece, and I can expose these base hedonists.
Ya ne yapıyorsun?
Manchos had to enforce the masks after the scare.
Aldatan damat mı? Vali yardımcısı Kavdım müstakbel eşi Prusya Düşesi tarafından genç adamların arasında basılmış. Düşesin işleri gerçekmiş. Politik amaçla yapılsa bile. Hii. Ay korkunç. Politik bir krize neden olmuş. Gerçi çok az protesto olsa da vali yardımcısını kovmuş. Bu olaydan sonra da maskeli olmaya başlamış.
Thank you.
Ne ya? Nereye geldim?
My God. Was he here this whole time?
İçeridekiler bunu bilerek içeride mi duruyor peki? Öyle bir şey yoktur canım. Bilmiyorlardır herhalde.
This crude tattoo partially covers as slave branding. The dagger is heavy and sharp, but lacks balance. This golden handle has a bloodstain on it. A blunt-force trauma may have suffered an internal hemorrhage. This worm-like sigil has been drawn with his own blood. The wound is deep. A precise strike reached the heart. The victim has clenched the fabric so firmly in his fist that it's nigh impossible to remove it. He died right here. The sign reminds me of the astrological symbol for Mars. This one looks like a twisted symbol of Venus, drawn in a hurry.
Kadın erkek. Sembolleri, cinsiyet sembolü.
This oil has a slight aroma of flowers and olive. The ointment smells mouse-like. I presume it is an aphrodisiac prepared from a Spanish fly. This elaborate box must be for the ritual dagger. The herbs here are Salvia divinorum. They have a slight hallucinogenic effect to emphasize the ceremony.
Ha gelmiş bizim sapık. Hep böyle sapık işler bu adamın başından çıkıyor ya.
Enough cigars to burn down the entire mansion. An open wound spoiled the carpet. Blood. A sturdy bottle met a not-so-sturdy human. It didn't break only because it was unopened. Why don't people tidy up after themselves?
What about a quick pillow fight?
Aa. Aa.
Werner, care to explain what is going on here?
On nights like these, it's not unusual for some attendees to get a little exuberant. It's part of the appeal. Unfortunately, it appears things have gotten out of hand. Yes, some are more prone to bend the rules of morality.
That's murder. I doubt there's anything left to bend. Why did you not tell me immediately? We were chatting about trivial matters for some time.
If I'm completely honest, Sherlock, I've consumed a rather potent cocktail of substances. My attention slips and drifts. But I'm glad I thought to call for you.
You sent me a disguise.
Oh dear, did I? Well, since I found the body, Mr. Manchios has agreed that you can investigate the matter. I promise my mind will behave itself going forward.
All right. Pull yourself together, Werner. What is it about these nights that you were so...
Well, they're not always in the evenings, but they are in the shadows. People gather to test their boundaries in a safe and consensual atmosphere.
I suppose that's fair.
Well, I was invited as a special guest. It was supposed to be a time of both divine and carnal pleasures. A scratch for every unconventional itch.
I imagine you're reeling from your shattered expectations.
On the contrary, there is still spectacle, stimulation, and release, merely in a different form. I like to let life entertain me.
Or death. Mr.
And the host of Kurbanlık's most memorable parties. He promises even the ugliest guest a partner for the night. And for the ones with more unconventional tastes,
What a caring...
you cannot begin to imagine.
How did you discover the body? In between guzzles of alcohol?
I was set to perform in a fecundity rite with Fabio and came to inquire further. It was a staged ritual where he was to play the principle of life.
And the rehearsal was unsuccessful?
Huh, who knows? I found him alone on the altar, his blood dripping to the floor.
And then?
Then I called Mr. Manchios. He was panicking, so I told him about you. We left the room and locked the door. Then we were
Filling time?
waiting for you was stressful. We indulged in some simple comforts. Overindulged, perhaps.
Were you well acquainted with Fabio?
Everyone knew Fabio, or wanted to. His beauty was the talk of the island. Too handsome to go unnoticed. He was magnetic. Fat wallets fought for the privilege of having him.
Eskiden köleymiş, sonra
He
herhalde
offered
şey
the
olmuş,
pleasures of
fahişe olmuş.
performance and more.
When you discovered the body, was the door open?
No, it was locked. Oh, that reminds me. It's a minor detail, but the first time I came to speak to Fabio, I left without entering, having been unable to open the door.
You didn't have the key?
No, I had it. Don't look at me like that. I was mostly sober. I suspect there was a key in the other side of the door, blocking the lock.
That detail may very well be major, Werner. Well done. So you returned later only to find the lock was not blocked?
Correct. After an hour had passed, I tried again and was able to unlock the door. That's when I discovered poor, handsome Fabio.
What about the fertility ritual? There was something about Fabio being a principle of life.
Fabio was supposed to portray the beauty of life's origin. Flowers, oil. Not this travesty that seems straight out the Inquisition.
So this ritual is not the fertility rite. What was it meant to look like?
It begins with a woman lying naked in a flower bed on the altar. She represents Gaia, the earth. As I cover her in oils, we chant for the principle. As our calls reach a climax, Fabio enters and copulates with her. After he finishes, I stab her with a dagger. That part's just pretend, of course.
But the intercourse is not?
I did not expect you to be such a prude. Are you a virgin? It is nothing to be ashamed of, but it would explain the color of your cheeks. The fertility rite marks the start of our festivities. The principle of life is beautiful, intimate, essential. It must not be stopped.
Yet it appears that someone did stop it. What about the naked woman? Can you tell me anything about her?
Oh yes, Matista. She's one of Fabio's compatriots and a performer too. I haven't seen her today, actually.
The police remain unaware of this tragic event?
Some of them may be hiding behind their masks. They conceal many things. But we didn't want the authorities to create more problems. Besides, after a few cocktails, their incompetence will have soared to new heights.
How do you know I even want the case?
I promised you relaxation. If there's one thing I know about you, Sherlock, it's that nothing soothes you more than a good
Beni
mystery.
tanıyorsun. Tamam. Sana inandım. Beni tanıyorsun.
You've got a lot to do, Sherlock.
A person leaned against the doorframe. They left a bloody handprint on an armchair. The wounded person was here for some time. There appear to be no further traces leading to the altar.
Ya John. Oh.
Identical to the robes the guests are wearing. The pitcher is empty, but with puddles around it.
Kan temizlemiş
Blood
bu da.
clots are adhered to the sides of the drain.
Öyle mi? Bilmiyordum. Bakacağım dur.
This is a different ritual.
Neymiş ya? Bir sunağın üstüne çiçeklerden oluşan bir yatak var. Ritim falan filan. Aptallıklarını duymak istemiyorlar. Ne kadar güzel olduğunu ve onların ne kadar özverili davranabileceğini hissetmek istiyorlar. Hayatı neşelendirmek ve kutlamak için buradasın. Unutma, her misafir seninle birlikte olabilmek için büyük ödemeler yapar.
How can anyone accept such behaviour?
Bu yolu
A useful
seçmiş.
tool for a disguise arsenal.
belki izlemişimdir de hatırlamıyorum.
Props, decorations, and tools for a more detailed set. Similar to the guests' robes, apart from the bloodstains.
Au! Ah! Başka bir şey yok. Ha, burada bir şey var.
Handcrafted and luxurious cufflinks. There's also a note. For my Fabio.
Ay o da
Manchas.
mı acaba şey olduğu için mi öyle kadına ayrımcılık mı yap?
The key is similar to the one that Vogel gave me. The key is similar to the one that Vogel gave me.
Ha, oraya tıklam.
The capital F on the key fob might refer to Fabio.
Would you recognise me in one of these? I suppose not. So,
O zaman
Sherry,
benimkiyle
do you have any
aynı
ideas about the case?
bir maske.
Perhaps. I think I can deduce what happened here.
Ay kafasına vurma, bir de öldürdün adamı da. Bakacağız ona.
You're not even trying, Sherry. Concentrate.
The bottle was used as a weapon during a scuffle in the smoking lounge. Then, to ensure no one would interrupt, the murderer locked the door. The unconscious body of the victim was moved to the altar room. Once the body was on the altar, the murderer thrust the dagger into the victim's heart. Symbols were drawn with the blood. The wardrobe was used to hide the bloodied robe from anyone's eyes. The killer washed himself and took a clean robe from the hanger before leaving.
Are you all right? You're on the floor, not moving.
I think I know what happened here. I'm starting to put the pieces together.
Fabio was stabbed.
I see nothing gets past you, Werner. Yes, he was stabbed, but only after being knocked out in the next room and placed here. I do not yet know why.
So, who's responsible?
Well, it was one person working alone, and the murderer has now donned a robe. He or she could be hiding in plain sight. We have lost time, Werner, but your discretion may prove to be a benediction after all.
Ritüel bir kılım.
The murderer had to have access to this room. After the crime, he used his own key to lock the door. So, who had the key to the altar room?
I'm not sure. As a special guest, I was provided one by Mr. Manchios. He should be able to tell you of any others.
Where can I find him?
Most likely in the main hall, entertaining his guests. He has a mask with golden stars. You can't miss him. But please be discreet. We don't want to risk disturbing the revelry. I know you can untangle this mess.
Kurt Manchios, I presume. I'm Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, you must be the one Werner told me about. What a sweet voice you have. It must belong to a handsome young man. Can I call you Sherlock?
I'm not
As
that
you wish,
kind
Mr. Manchios.
of people.
Mr. Vogel asked me to help you. The body in the altar room requires answers, and quickly.
Ben
I suspect the
ahlaklıyım.
murderer to still be here.
What? Lower your voice. I don't want anyone to hear us.
I need to find all those who had the key to the altar room. As far as I know, Mr. Vogel, Fabio, and you had access to it. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. Also, Matista and Santos.
Santos'ta bir
Santos.
sıkıntılar
Who was that?
olabilir.
Santos Pinchetti, my major domo. In his opinion, at least.
I'd like to speak to Mr. Pinchetti and Matista. Do you have somewhere I might have a private conversation with them?
Of course, of course. Let me think. Matista is entertaining the guests somewhere, and Santos... Oh, yes. He will be busy with the servants. Or the cook. What's that noise? What's going on? Freeze, filth. You're under arrest.
Ana. Ah. Ya ben Sherlock Holmes. Tutuklandık. Emniyet haber verin, emniyette değilim.
Committed a crime, and now I have to free you, kiss your hand, and apologize for the inconvenience. Your Grace.
I did tell you that Mr. Vogel and I were innocent. I emphasized it in my statement.
Your statement? Thanks to some bigwigs who work for the so-called good of the country by releasing fleas like you.
Pardon?
Thank God we had Vogel in this letter. Once I get to that goldfish, I'll...
Bigwig. Ah, my wretched brother Mycroft and his long nose.
Wait, did you say Mycroft? Mycroft Holmes? Are you the youngest son of Violet Holmes, rest her soul?
You knew my mother?
Not personally, no. Not exactly. I was working on the paperwork for that case.
Would you happen to remember anything of the events?
Well, I didn't make the inquiry, but I remember seeing some notes. Why?
Perhaps we can negotiate. I could be quite useful.
Huh. Got you hooked, right? You know what? Stark and the others think they're the smartest here, thanks to you. Let me get this straight. Are you listening to me, lad?
I'm all ears.
Take this case. Report to me only, to Constable Harvey Oswald. I'll leave everything I have on this table. Find the murderer. Be a real copper. Question the suspects, make them sing, give me something substantial.
And if Mr. Vogel is not a suspect?
If he's innocent, then you can take your favourite degenerate away from here. If you slip or mess with the evidence, then trust me, your brother won't save you from my bludgeon. Meanwhile, I'll be checking the archive for you. If anybody asks, then you're a consulting detective.
Let's make a start then, partner.
I'm glad we managed to get the scoop before the raid. I can't go back to prison.
I can't go back
I
to
found
prison.
Werner.
Werner!
Werner, are you all right?
Oh, yes, yes. Everything's fine. In fact, it's something of a family reunion. My brother spent quite some time in this place himself.
You should not be here. I told the police everything I knew, but they refused to let you go. They require proof to free you.
Ha! What did you expect? The mighty Sherlock Holmes swans in, tells the officers what to think, and the world obeys?
Of course not. Anyway, I struck a deal with the constable, and I've got a free hand in the investigation. I find proof to solve the case for him. He obtains files about my mother's death for me.
Well done. If one has the power or will and can act, then one must. I wonder, suppose you couldn't get the proof to your truth. Would you tell a lie to the guard that enabled my freedom, knowing my innocence? Would that not be just?
There are lines I will not cross, Werner. I will do my best to secure your release, but with proof, not deception.
Really? How many white lies have you told on this island? Why not for me? Why not
Neden
another?
suçlu musun ki?
That is absurd. I can resolve this without compromises. Do not give up hope.
Cesedi bulduğunu iddia eden ve satanist ritüeline tanık olanlardan birinin ifadesine göre Manços malikânesine baskın düzenlenmiş. Birkaç şüpheli tutuklanmış ve maskeli ve cübbeli bir grup ahlaksız ve doğa dışı davranışlar sergiler. Doğa dışı dediği de yani. Hani. Haberini gördünüz mü? Heykelin organını sökmüşler. Televizyonda gözükmesin diye. İşte. Kurbanın cesedi göğsünde bir bıçakla bir sunağın üstünde bulunmuş. Polis memurları kurbanın kimliğini tespit etmiş. Fabio 20 yaşında yerel bir sahne sanatçısı. Kısaca. Tutuklanan şüpheliler Vogel üstünde kurban tarafından yazılan ve hakaret içerikli bir mektup bulundu. Cesedi kendisinin bulduğunu iddia ediyor. Eksantrik kişiliğiyle tanınıyor. Kurbanın kanını taşıyan bir hançeri, cinayet silahını ve başka deliller üstünde. Abi bizim de yani adımız olmasa biz şu an hapisteyiz. Muhtemelen resmi soruşturmaya engel olmak için diğer bir şüpheli olan Vogel tarafından davet edilmiş. Ben niye öyle bir şey yapayım? Satanist Partisi'nin organizatörü, ayrıca Satanist Partisi değil, partinin satanistlikle hiçbir alakası yok. Törende rol alması için kurbana para ödemiş. Olay mahalline erişimi varmış. Batista ortağı ve törendeki eşlikçisi tutuklanmamak için kaçmaya çalıştı. Sunak odasında gerçekleştirilen töreni anlatan bir kitabı vardı. Konukların bazıları sorgulanmak üzere gözaltına alındı. Hemen çalalım.
Back on track to solve the case.
Kanıtları üstüme tutmuştum ya. Santos Pinchetti. Ha bu. Polise bildiren bu. Karakol ifadeye istinaden bir devriye gönderdi ve tanık da karakoldan çıkıp eve gitti. Bu imkansız ki. Bu kimse yalan söylüyor. Anahtar yokmuş ki bunda. Poliçe. Bu benim. Fabio burada. Aha.
Good day, Mr. Manchios. I am Constable
Amantios bu
Oswald's partner
işte.
in this
Evin
investigation.
sahibi.
Be quick and
Partinin
gentle.
evin
Some of your
malikanesi.
colleagues are untrained boors. Although I don't mind meeting young officers, the new blood here.
If you cooperate in finding Fabio's murderer, there will be no need to meet with the Boers again.
That voice. Werner's friend? You're the policeman. What a disappointment.
Only an undercover agent can scour a ditch full of deviants. I am a consulting detective, although I'm capable of replacing the entire department through my consultations.
Sharp-tongued, I like it. May I presume this tongue will get us out of this trouble? I would be
Bu
so
abi
indebted
çok
and
değişik
glad to
konuşuyor.
repay
Hiç
you.
beğenmedim.
Nothing's changed. I'm looking for the murderer. That's the only way to get us out of trouble.
But it shouldn't take much time, correct? We're all busy after all.
I need to examine you first.
Konum hakkında.
You are so focused on cleanliness that these products are severely damaging your skin.
I would laugh at you. Ha! If only my cheeks didn't hurt. Not exactly. I try to take care of my body. A young man who has yet to confront his own aging couldn't hope to understand.
These chemicals are quite literally melting your face.
Ah, the price of beauty. I'll be fine, I'm sure of it.
Such a methodical man who cares for his body but misses the soap under his fingernails. Are you so impatient or perhaps even impulsive?
I wouldn't call myself that. Silly little details. If I missed it, it wasn't important. Or rather, it was less important than who or what I was focused on. I've no idea about that. I've no idea about that. You'd better ask someone else.
Do you have any idea who tipped off the police to raid your mansion, Mr. Manchios?
Of course. It was you. I could even say you Sherlocked me in here.
A good guess, but the wrong one.
Sherlock me.
The fellow who did that was Mr. Pinchetti, your major domo.
What? Santos? But how could he even know? If he's not the murderer himself. The ungrateful swine. He has dared to besmirch my reputation.
Not a very eloquent choice of words.
What should I call him then, since he's a snitch? Make him talk, Sherlock. I'm quite certain he knows more about the murder than he has told the police.
Ben de pek güvenmiyorum açıkçası.
I've no idea about that. I've no idea about that. I've no idea about that.
Heh.
You bought an expensive pair of cufflinks for Fabio. Were they his price? Or were they a tip for an exclusive show?
It was pure business. Fabio escorted me a few times. I was merely showing my gratitude.
This pair cost a small fortune. You must be extremely grateful then. Tell me more.
You've thrust a knife in an exposed nerve, Sherlock. Yes,
İşim bu.
he was my
İşim bu.
protege and my beacon also. With my experience and his beauty, we could have achieved anything. I had faith in him. I would have made him.
Ay çok
Mr. Vogel told me a little about your parties, but I would like to know more directly from you.
I'm all yours, Sherlock. You have me arrested and locked here with you alone.
I'd like to know who you usually invite to your parties.
Free minds who are able to leave reality for an evening, who can taste forbidden fruit without prejudice. There is nothing that quite spices up life like these
Sizin
parties.
yüzünüzden zaten
Assuming
geldik
one
bu
is
lanet.
old enough and has worked
Yeah,
many
yeah.
years for the good of one's country.
Oh, all true labourers, I see. Why did you invite Mr. Vogel as your special guest?
He's a pretty fellow. He's capable of surprising the public. He has a talent for saying words that no one else would wish to either say or hear.
I suppose I can't argue with that.
He is a free addition to the eccentricity of the party, which is fine by me, as long as it enhances my party.
What was Fabio like? His personality, his habits? Anything you can tell me?
He was the brightest star of my parties. Young, magnetic, and
Herkes
full
çok
of
seviyormuş çocuğu.
I
Çok
don't
güzel
even
falan
want to
diyorlarmış.
mention his beauty. Otherwise, I'll be sobbing.
An expensive champion, I imagine.
His performances were flawless. He deserved his payment. Do you think he was murdered because of money?
Possibly. What about the other guests? Were they used to opening their wallets as well?
I wouldn't restrict my guests from anything. I'm sure Fabio received a few coins from others for his services. I can't wrap my head around such a tragedy at my party.
Matista.
I'm Sherlock Holmes. I'm helping Constable Oswald. You are Matista, Fabio's friend.
This body, yes, it's Matista. But it's a mere shell that will die someday. Just like Fabio.
Please accept my condolences for your friend.
Thank you.
I'm just here to ask questions and find Fabio's murderer.
It will not bring Fabio back.
Fabio'yu geri getirmesi önemli. Aha. Sen boğulmuşsun. Aa. Ağır. Oo. Kızım kendine ne yaptın? Bu ya. Bence.
Fabio and yourself were slaves, am I correct? You have a similar branding on your body.
Yes. It was a long time ago.
Couldn't help but also notice fresh cuts upon your forearms.
The cuts helped me to forget my past. To cover the old wounds
Doğru
and
bilmişiz.
hide them.
How did you escape?
Something happened. One night the master fell down the stairs. I made him fall, and he died. We ran away that day. We managed to get on a ship and traveled here, to Cordona. Fabio and I started a new life here. It was very hard at first, but it became better with time. Until today.
The bruises on your neck are not self-inflicted. Someone else made them.
Some guests can't contain themselves. They even bite, sometimes.
Bakacağız.
Have you considered Mr. Santos Pinchetti as a suspect?
The snitch? Have you seen him? I mean, my breath could knock him down. What's so special about him?
As a major domo, he has keys that open all the rooms, including the one to the crime scene. Could have testified only to circumvent suspicion, don't you think? We need to question him.
Right. I'll send our men to fetch him. Stay here.
Bekliyorum.
They brought him in, Mr. Holmes. Here's the key to interrogation room number 7. Mr. Pinchetti didn't even resist, our men said.
Katilin de aynı yapacağı şekilde. Bay Pinchetti.
Mr. Pinchetti, a pleasure to meet you. I'm Sherlock Holmes. I'm helping Constable Oswald.
I've already told him everything I know. I'm only a witness, sir. Everything's in my report.
And I've read it. You forgot to mention that you hold the keys to the room where Fabio was found. I need only to find if the crime was intentional.
But I need to return to my duties.
I doubt the house will fall without you, Mr. Pinchetti. Just be still for a few seconds.
Ulan evin sahibi hapiste diyor ki ev işlerini ya. Ya bırak palavrayı ya. Herif.
You are the major domo of a rich mansion, and you seem barely able to afford decent clothing. You hide, under heavy makeup, a skin disease that might be treated with more onerous but less harmful means. Do you have money troubles?
I do not have a lot of means. The pay is below what you might expect.
But you could easily change your job if your employer does not meet your elementary needs.
One can change his employer, that is true.
And the blood on your shoe, where does that come from?
I don't actually know. Perhaps from a guest?
Did you know Fabio?
Not personally. He was a frequent guest, and cleaning the mess after his performances was tedious. Mr. Manchios always had a role for him, and mainly the leading one. The parties were always Fabio-centric.
And Batista? Was she as popular as her partner?
Don't tell her I said this, but I do not think so. Mr. Manchios hired her only because Fabio refused to work without her. Mr. Manchios used to see her as a worker. She was tasked with entertaining the guests, unlike Fabio, who could pick and choose. Please let me out.
Hayır.
I recognize the key from the altar room among these.
Santos, beklenti içindeki sümüklü böceğim. Vasiyetime seni dahil etmem için bana yalvarmıştın. İşte vasiyetimin son versiyonu. Sümüklü böceğim mi? Santos Pinchetti'ye Manchios Malikanesi'nin karşısına bir kutu bıyık parlatıcı ve tuz damlası bırakıyorum. Özverinin işverini Kurt Manchios daima hatırlasın diye.
Mr. Manchios says that you begged him to be included in the heritage. Isn't that a little extreme, even for a major domo?
He's not only my employer, he's my uncle. And I'm his next of kin. The only one. Mr. Manchios flatly refuses to pay a family member. All I have to do is repay his so-called love. cleaning up the filth after perverts and decadents. He's imprisoned me. The best I can hope for is a new broom. That's why I wanted to have my part of the inheritance.
Ne pis bir
Is it
herifmiş.
that bad? You have a roof above your head, a salary, and the status of a major domo.
For God's sake. I'm forced to dye and stitch my threadbare clothes, and the holes in my shoes are painful. I'm ashamed every time a guest looks at me closely.
Why do you think your uncle treats you this way?
My mother, my uncle's sister, had me illegitimately. She
Ha.
died, and I was given the surname of one of the maids.
But you are entitled to some of the money that belongs to your family.
He thinks not. I was not responsible for my mother's death. I work hard, and he pays me nothing. I feed on the leftovers. While he wastes our estate's property on decadent parties, he paid Fabio handsomely and showered him with expensive gifts for their disgusting relationship.
Bir kıskançlık seviyorum
I know you can
ama
untangle this mess.
merhabalar.
That's not something I know much about.
I've read the letter about your will. A harsh method of ridiculing Santos. I doubt he will use mustache wax when he wears no mustache to begin with.
Where did you get it? Is the slug here? Tell him I shouldn't have to provide for him. He's a grown man who shouldn't sit on his uncle's neck. He conceives himself as my only heir.
Tek
And who is
varsın
he to you?
zaten.
He's a leech on my aging body. He has only added problems to my life since the death of his mother.
I fail to see why you made him your major domo.
He needed to know his place, so I taught him.
Ne ayıp ya. Yeğenin o senin be. Bu karaktersiz. Keşke sen öldürmüş olsaydın da seni içeri atsaydım.
I'd like to check the evidence from this case.
La Sherlock.
Oswald sent me. I'm
Ne
a
ayıp.
consulting detective.
His partner, then? Let me see. Ah, a ritual murder. What a bunch of degenerates. Wait a second, I'll bring it to the table.
A heavily
think-
perfumed handkerchief with the initials KM in the corner. It's a miracle this ruby hasn't tempted anyone. All the keys of the mansion on one golden ring. A handcrafted charm that contains hair and nail clippings. Her key to the altar room.
Aha kitap.
That's not for bedtime reading. This ex libris belongs to Manchios Library.
Matisa'nın çantasında bulmuşlar. Bay Manchios koleksiyonundan alınmış. Olay mahallini andıran bir törenin görsellerini ve tariflerini barındırıyor. Sahip olduğun gücü beslemesi erkek ve kadın arası. Tamam. Bunu bu arada
The
zaten
book describes a
istediği
ritual
için.
similar to the one performed in the altar room.
Yani oradaki olay zaten yapılmayı planlanmış.
An
Şimdi burada
emergency
onun
kit
olması çok
for
bir şey
boredom.
değiştirmiyor o yüzden. O neymiş ya öyle?
Not the time for privacy. Werner's personal sketchbook. Thank you, officer.
Hoş geldin Furkan.
So, the police found a letter from Fabio in your pocket.
I cannot tell if it was truly in my pocket at all. Perhaps it was placed there later.
Well, that is one hypothesis. If it were true, then how did it get there?
No clue. But this night has been rather eccentric. Such a detail could have easily eluded me.
Indeed. Do you recall reading it?
I can't remember that either. But I tend to respect privacy. Reading others' personal notes is not one of my perversities.
Please let me out.
Sus be sus. Bunda bir alakan var mı?
I've read this letter from Fabio. It had no addressee, but it was found in Mr. Vogel's pocket.
Werner? Strange. I didn't think the two of them corresponded.
I'm sure there is some explanation. Would you care to read it?
Call me superstitious, but I don't care to read a letter from a dead man.
Do you recognize this book? Could Matista have borrowed it from your library?
She didn't ask me. How ungrateful.
The things described in the book were inspiration for the rituals you performed?
Do you really believe that blood, symbols, and incantations can resurrect the dead? They are just eerie tales with a mix of occultism and voodoo. My rituals are a stage to
Lütfen beni
show
buradan
some of
çıkar.
the forbidden pleasures.
Seni hiç beğenmiyorum. Ne oldu kızım?
Let's continue our chat.
Dur
a little
hayır.
later.
Konuştuk.
This book, The Power of Love, Blood, and Mandrake, what do you hope to achieve?
To learn more about the invisible strengths that govern us. Occultism is real. The master who fell that night when Fabio and I escaped,
Söylemiştin.
I made him fall. I cast a spell on him and it worked.
Or was it a coincidence?
The universe is rarely so lazy.
If you say so. This is the letter the police found in Mr. Vogel's pocket. Fabio wrote it. Do you know anything about it?
I don't. Although I can feel Fabio's energy. It's there, but it refuses to let me analyze it.
Öyle mi?
Do you practice occult rituals?
For protection? For fortune? To wash away the ugliness of the world? Sometimes to survive. I have the gift, and I'm learning to use it better.
Did you use your gift on Fabio?
I only used white magic. Love charms lately. Fabio became so distant. I just wanted him to be with me. But I suppose I'm not
aşık
as skilled
mıydın?
as I thought.
Bazı kadınlar gerçekten manyak ya. Bakacağız. Bakacağız. Manchios'a yazmış bu öfkeli mektubu diyor. Bakalım sana mı yazmış? Hemen mimiklerinden anlayacağım şimdi.
There is undeniable evidence that you were the original recipient of this.
What are you talking about? Is it addressed to me?
Your protege wanted a fresh start, it seems. This is sufficient to charge you.
Me? Hurt my star? Are you insane that you would accuse me of such a thing?
He did not consider himself as yours. Since you deny everything, let's move on. Do you have any idea as to how the letter could have ended up in Mr. Vogel's pocket?
You were the detective. Perhaps he took it from Fabio. Werner was a little high.
I have reason to believe that the intended recipient of the incriminating letter may have been Kurt Manch.
Well, that makes sense. Too bad I can't remember how I came to possess it. Though I did spend quite some time with Mr. Manchios during the party.
Unfortunately, even with an answer, that may still not be enough to clear you with the police. But fear not, I will persevere.
I hope your attempt to put things straight will make up for...
You being on a bender?
touché.
Touché. Ritüel bir kılıf bu arada çünkü önceden öldürülmüş zaten.
Could Fabio have written this letter to Kurt Manchios?
Oh. That could be. I never thought Mr. Manchios could make Fabio that angry, though.
What do you mean?
Well, Fabio wanted to disassociate from Mr. Manchios. Clients who are in love are both a blessing and a curse.
But Fabio was here tonight.
Money. In our line of work, we can't afford to turn down clients who pay as well as Kurt Manchios.
Was Fabio afraid of Mr. Manchios?
Not at all. The old toad wouldn't dare to do more than sweet talk and touching. Talk can be forgotten, and touching washed away.
Bence bu adam yaşlılık konusunda takıntılı.
The murder of Fabio did not...
That might be true. That poor girl Matista wouldn't dare to kill the only man who... Ungrateful little scum. Will he be executed?
But what for? He informed the police as to the crime, that was all. He couldn't stage the ritual, but he found the body, I believe.
I can't believe it. Why did Werner do it?
Mr. Vogel. He had no reason, and he won't be a scapegoat as you plan. You put Fabio's letter in his pocket when he was intoxicated, didn't you?
You can't be serious.
We can very often deduce someone's life by their shoes or their fingernails. You are a meticulous person, but this murder was fairly traumatic and filthy. After you stabbed Fabio, you were covered in blood. You panicked and neglected to rinse the soap from under your fingernails. The devil is in the details, Mr. Manchios.
Nonsense. I missed it simply because of the busy schedule of the party.
Of course, a staged murder was certainly not planned. You're at the twilight of your life. You have no partner, you have no children. You had feelings, however, for one man. That was Fabio. You loved him. That is, you wished to own him, with money and gifts. But he was also a free mind, was he not? He turned his back on you. Quite unjust. Love, so cruel and painful, and Fabio, with his words and deeds, made you feel the more wretched. So you killed him.
You must surely perceive that my sensitive nature wouldn't allow me to hurt anyone.
You staged the murder as a satanic ritual. It was easy for you, since you were the one who wrote the scenarios for the parties. It was your way of avoiding suspicion. A respectable man in his 60s,
Early 60s.
who hosts the cream of Cordona's society, cannot possibly be a murderer. But the guests who behave like animals in his mansion, of course, one of them could have killed Fabio.
I did oversee a few of the rituals, but I did not stage Fabio's death.
Fabio played with your feelings. That was painful to realize. You spent so much time and effort to be with Fabio, but he didn't respond in the way that you would have liked. You wanted to be loved, but Fabio shattered your dreams. In the smoking lounge, he teased and mocked you. He wanted you to suffer by offering himself to others. The deception was unbearable. You were passionate, and so you struck him. Once you understood your mistake, it was too late. You were afraid, so you staged the ritual. With such a story, you might be sentenced to a few years. It might clean your conscience, and soon the case will be forgotten.
No. No.
This is my decision. I'll talk to Constable Oswald to see what I can do.
Ya
There's no fool like an old fool. Kurt Manchios did it. A young boy played with the heart of an old man. The latter couldn't handle it. The evidence I obtained clearly shows that the quarrel was not intended to end badly. It was an accident.
Showing pity towards your own kind, Holmes. Whatever.
All I'm saying is that prison won't take much away from an old and crushed man.
Fine. A big name like that will still give me a promotion. As for my part, not everything was in place. Perhaps some documents were transferred somewhere else, but I couldn't find a trace of them. Then I remembered. The discarded document drawers where they put the
Kandırıldım.
lost papers or the badly labelled ones. Including the crime scene report of Violet Holmes's case. Everything I've found is on the desk here. Take it.
Your persistence has saved me.
Yeah, well, we had a deal after all. Your friend is free then. You can leave.
Good luck, Constable.